Hello, and welcome to the German New Medicine Stories podcast. Please note that nothing that I or any of my guests say here is or should be misinterpreted as medical information or advice. These are personal stories, not prescriptions. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of stories today from a mother of four named Audrey. The first is just a little bit about some eczema that her daughter has experienced throughout her life, and then a really fun story about getting the flu after like a very near car accident with all of her kids in the car. And then a story about vomiting during pregnancy and also how she Sherlocked this kind of like acne, quote unquote, hormonal acne that she had experienced at many different points throughout her life. So yeah, lots to learn. Hope you enjoy. And yeah, as always, let me know what you think.
Okay. So my name is Audrey. I'm based in France, South Brittany, so near the sea. How have I found GNM? I think it's been almost 2 years now, so it's not that old. And it was I was part of the community of someone I was learning from around free birth, and she had a workshop around self-healing, which was basically GNM. So I listened to this workshop and I was like, oh, wow, it kind of makes sense because I always felt that symptoms and the body was not just randomly doing things. And so GNM was kind of connecting the dots between many things I had observed over my life, and so I was super interested. And so I started to do my own research, basically being like, okay, what's this new medicine? What is it talking about? So I discovered your podcast, listened to several episodes, saw your account and the training you were doing, etc. And I started to look at just symptoms at home. So I'm the mom of four kids, from almost 8 years old to my newborn, who's 2 weeks old.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Oh
two
my
weeks.
gosh, I can't believe you're doing this with a 2 week old. You're amazing. Holy.
It's because it's baby four.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I could not have done that in 2 weeks, but I could imagine maybe by baby number four, I'd be there.
Yeah, exactly. Like each baby shows that things can be easier than the previous one. So
Yeah, yeah.
this time we're doing it that way, and it seems to work.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, and I just looked at my kids' symptoms. Like my oldest daughter was having eczema since she was a baby. And so I started to research on the skin and many things like that. And I felt a bit, I would say lost, but maybe just kind of blocked in how I was using, for example, learninggnm.com, because I was a bit, yeah, lost in the website, not finding the information I wanted, and seeing that maybe something was missing. And so that's when you were doing the communication around the fourth cohort of Sherlock Your Symptoms, and I was like, okay, it seems to be exactly the piece I miss in my research, so let's go for that. And I started the online training, and it was really exactly what I needed at that time, because I had almost a year doing research, trying to find out things, observing my kids, etc. And yeah, I was all like hitting a kind of a glass ceiling or something, where I missed the probably what I realized I missed was this germ layer
Mm,
ID. So it was less organized in how I was looking for things, because I was just like looking at skin or
yeah,
stomach, or
right.
and then stomach, it can be several things. We'll talk about it in one of the stories. And so the structure of knowing each germ layer, understanding that each germ layer has its own way of adapting, and two, that the adaptation is a way to enhance basically the body to go through the adaptation it needs to go through. And so all this thing too around like what's the underlying function of the organ was really like those were the little pieces that helped me really it made many things click. And yeah, and so now I'm really into GNM for many things. Like 2 weeks ago, I gave birth to my fourth child, and we had a few healings in the family system, of course. and yeah, and it's just like this trust I have that it's the body doing its thing, that it needs support, of course. So we have sun, we live close to the sea, we go in the ocean as soon as we can. So we have a lot of support for the bodies of everybody in the family system, but we trust the fact that the bodies of everyone are just going through their cycles and doing their things the best way they can. And it helped a lot too, I guess, as a mom, to not be in this kind of very easy to go into fear, kind of, oh la la, is my baby having something? Should I go to the doctor? Should I give him this or that? Or and just knowing that basically the body knows what it's doing. And of course, sometimes we can need some help, but it's kind of, the underlying energy it comes from is more from trust than from fear. And for me, it really changed the way I mother, basically, because I'm now very relaxed as a mother. Like they have small pimples or things that may seem ugly, and I'm like, oh, that's great, your body's resolving something, and then I can touch them without being like, oh, I'm going to get it. Or so it changes everything in the way we take care of young children. And I think they feel that too, and they're more relaxed towards what's happening too, because like
your older kids, do you think they've noticed like a shift in how you
I think so, because like my daughter's skin has always been quite a topic, and my skin has always been quite a topic too. But it's just that I was projecting, I guess, a fear around like, oh my god, she's always going to have so many eczema, and she has a lot on her face. So she was a lot like sometimes in a shame thing, like I don't want to go play with other kids because it's so ugly, no no no. And now she's like, the other day she was going to the kids center like for vacation for a day, and she had like makeup like all other kids with something very like partying and a lot of things around her face, even if she had like quite a big eczema thing on her eyelid. And she was just so happy and so like, woo. And I was realizing that probably 2 years ago she would have said, no, I should not have it because it's going to hurt, because it's going to make it worse, because no no no. And she would have been like, I don't want other kids to see me like that. So
that's so good. And so I mean, we didn't really plan to talk about this, so feel free to say no, but how have you like discussed the eczema with her now that you kind of understand what's going on? It sounds like it's still ongoing, but like, does she have different like
no, it's a bit different this time. It's more like this, like with the birth, we had kind of a big flare up of I don't know how it's called in English, but it's more like it's on the skin they have little, well, bigger than pimples, and it's a little mushroom.
like a fungus.
Yeah, fungus, exactly. And so it's I guess it's something I'm still kind of unpacking, because it feels like a very, like everyone had it except me.
Mm-hmm.
And the where on the body it changes from one kid to the other, and my husband is a bit different. But I think there is a soil thing around, like all the feminine fluids that you have when you give birth, like the blood, the like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my middle daughter, she saw the blood and she was like, oh, it's scary, and she just said it a bit like, is it normal that you're bleeding so much, etc. And I was like, yeah. And she went to her sister and she was like, no, don't go, there's blood everywhere. And the dad said, yeah, but it's just like the placenta, it's how the baby gets food, and na, na, na. And so we had a little discussion, and they had like really like in the legs inside where I was having blood, having all these fungus things in their
Wow,
skin.
that's so interesting.
So yeah, and my older daughter, she had on the eyelid here, because I think because of what she saw, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not the eczema, because the eczema is really I would say gone, because it's been almost a year she hasn't had any flare up.
And
But
did you think she just like naturally matured out of it, or was it knowing the five biological laws, like did it help you figure out what the pattern was?
yeah, it was I think it was the five biological laws, because last time she had a big flare up, we were at my grandparents in Portugal, and she had a really big flare up, like behind her knees. And we were I was in the Sherlock Holmes symptoms training, and I remember I posted on the symptom workshop, and you mentioned something around where she's seated, like, and it was still this thing where eczema, it's funny because I realized that it took me a while, like maybe 1 year, 1 year and a half, to really realize that the flare up is the healing.
Yeah,
And
it's so challenging.
yeah, and each time I was like, oh no, she's having eczema, what have we done wrong? No.
Yeah.
And then I realized, and you said like, and you arrived to your sister and she had the flare up, so she's happy to be with your sister, or she's happy to not be with the people you were with before. And I was like, oh, okay, let's rewire all rewire the brain. It's quite long to rewire the brain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I realized that it was probably something around my grandparents being very over her. Like, she's the first grandchildren in like my family. I'm the oldest, and so she was the firstborn. And for my grandparents too, like, she's the only young child, so everyone was so much on her, and so this time I realized that she was just happy to not have my grandparents on her back anymore, and she was very happy to be at my sister's, because her aunt is like relaxed, chill, and she's very happy to be with her, and it's less demanding, I think, for her. So
oh, I really appreciate you sharing that story, because I think, like it is very common, obviously, for kids to have eczema, and the most like common suggestion of what it is that it's a separation from the mom, and I want to get closer to mom, and I'm not like, getting enough one-on-one time with my parents, which obviously that is a very common case. But I think it's so personality dependent, because it sounds like in your daughter's case is actually like, excuse me, I need independence. Like, please leave me alone. And it just depends on the individual sort of nature of a child, perhaps, which way they're going to go like that.
yeah, exactly. And I think it may have started with this mom separation, because I remember the first flare up she had when she was very young was when she started childcare. So it was probably linked to something in that kind of created maybe an easy path towards this. But I realize now it's more around like leave me alone. I need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be just having my kid time, do my play time, and I don't want
Hmm.
to like have to answer too many people, too many like. And yeah, it's funny because and it goes well with her character basically. So
Mm. How soon after she started daycare did she get the?
I think it was quite quickly when yeah, the at the beginning it was like she had flares up at night when
Mhm.
after I had uh nursed her basically.
Right, resolution makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So
Awesome. Okay.
but I was like, should I eat something different because my milk is making her have eczema?
Oh, yeah, right. I could see how you could conclude that.
So yeah, for
No,
that.
she just likes the cuddles.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, "Oh, okay, mom's back. It's
Yeah.
okay."
Oh, fun. Sweet. Um, okay, well, fun bonus story that I didn't plan on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's still being unpacked. All this thing around fungus.
Yeah.
We're looking, but it's really crazy how well, crazy to know that with thanks to JNN to not panic because when your kids start to have fungus everywhere on their body, it's kind of
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you have a 2-week-old. I mean, you could be experiencing that very differently for sure.
yeah, and it started from day two, I think. So when we had a 2 day old, and but yeah, knowing it's not contagious
Yeah. Yeah.
makes a difference.
Yeah. How freeing. Um, okay, well, should we shift to the car accident story?
Yeah, sure. I guess it was winter last year. We were already quite into the Sherlock symptoms. So I would say November or December last year. And we homeschool our kids, and we have a homeschooling meeting every Thursday with other families. And it was raining a lot this day, so it has been maybe a week of rain. And so we took the car back in the afternoon to go back home. But yeah, we were driving back home, and suddenly in a very like it was like climbing up, and it was super weird because suddenly there was like a big um, splash of water that I had not foreseen. And so suddenly the car is losing, uh, well, losing track. At least I feel we're entering aquaplaning, right? Like no adherence anymore on the road. And so I first thing I do is panic, basically, like, oh my God, I'm having my 3 kids in the
Hmm.
car. So I was having my almost 2 years old, 7 and 5 years old. And suddenly, yeah, I'm like, okay, we're going to have an accident. Like it's rainy, it's almost night, like, and at the same time, I feel like my brain remembering that I took some ice driving class, and so
Hmm.
that I should just do as much as possible nothing to leave like the car uh, on the water as long as it needs. And then when I get back to the road, I can do something, but I should not try to kind of brake or turn the wheel or do nothing. And so I'm kind of in this both states of, oh my God, it's really not good. And Audrey, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing. And the kids just they were singing on like kids songs or whatever, and suddenly like nobody's talking anymore because I
Hmm.
think they feel like kids feel very well that there is something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I remember being like, I don't want to be there. I like it's awful, and at the same time not really being able to panic completely because I had like to stay focused and yeah, prevent as much as as I could prevent to have a real accident, right?
Yeah.
And so then the car goes back on the road. I can decelerate. I can go on the right lane and finish the like 20 minutes. It was still 20 minutes. So I remember those 20 minutes were awful. I just was like, I want to be home. I don't want to be driving anymore. Like, let's... And so we came back home. Everyone is going to their little place, etc. My husband's working from home this day. And then he finishes his day maybe like half an hour after we're home, and I can go see him and just tell him like, this was awful, this happened, the car lost adherence completely, I thought we'll crash. And I feel like all my system kind of going off, this kind of super awareness mode. I cry a lot, I'm like shaking, etc., etc. And it's nighttime, so we do like the nighttime routine and we go to bed. And I start to really feel like my throat being super sore, like really super, yeah, really painful. And I'm like, oh, that's calf-right conflict resolution. And that night, our son, so he was almost 2 years old, and he started to cough like really this kind of a bronchial kind of, and I was like, why isn't it like, I was like, maybe he's having the sore throat, no? And then but it's like those masculine feminine perception. And so he was having the masculine perception of the scare fright resolution.
The territorial fear.
Yeah, exactly, the territorial fear, which makes sense because as his mom, I'm basically his territory, and the car was probably considered as the territory for him. So yeah, this one was quite helpful in a sense, and but like the two-step pattern was very clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just a great example for people of like how multiple people in a family could experience a conflict shock together, right? Like you were all in the car, but it also, if you were paying attention to like the particulars, it's not like, oh, you all had the same symptoms, right? Like you and your son actually had different symptoms, like a slight variation because of the just differences in perception and also being male and female, and that you knew to pay attention to the specifics of the symptoms and what they were, and that just, revealed different information to you. Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love these examples. Like there's such, it's just a little cold or something. It probably, I'm guessing, didn't last like more than a day. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe a few hours, and yeah, I
Yeah.
would say maybe my son had a little more, then he had a little of a stinky nose
Mm-hmm.
too,
Mm-hmm.
because he felt a danger.
Yeah.
It kind of snowballed a little bit on his side, but I would say, yeah, maybe 1 day or
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah. And like then it becomes clear, like, oh, of course, people can come down with symptoms like, fairly simultaneously. Like it makes sense because we live our lives together. And so, we experiencing challenging moments also together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe my daughters had a little sore throat too, and just they said nothing because it
Yeah.
was during night, and they just were like, we want water, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I love when it's nice and simple to observe that.
yeah, and like the timing was quite like everything was one after the other, and the resolution happened just like a few hours after
Mm-hmm.
the scare fright moment. So it's easy to make the link between
Yeah.
everything.
And also interesting to observe, like, it's not like you didn't go into resolution the moment that you were actually safe. It was the moment you were able to break your emotional isolation, right? And speak to your husband and hopefully that's also clear for people listening how important that piece is oftentimes for both, acute and chronic situations of how we actually get into resolution is that like verbalization and sharing with somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and the body kind of releasing to a
Mhm.
tension, because I really felt like when I could open to my husband and kind of
Yeah.
tell him how I felt,
Yeah.
I felt my body really like releasing with the cries, with some
Mhm.
shakes, kind of
Yeah.
a state of hyper awareness or something, kind of this kind of a
Mhm.
superhuman adaptation
Mhm.
could somatically get
Mhm.
released too. So it really felt like I needed a space to process, and my body needed a space to process too.
Yeah. 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 Do you want to share about the acne? The hormonal
Yeah,
acne that was not so hormonal?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I have had acne topics since a teenager, I think. Yeah, when I was 13 or 14 or whatever, like a long time ago, more than 20 years ago. And then I had all this, I was on the pill for years, which made my skin very beautiful. And then I stopped the pill. And I think that's the moment it was the worst in my life in terms of acne, really like painful acne all over the face and on the chest, on the back. And I remember at that time I knew nothing about GNM. It was, I would say, maybe 10 years ago. But still, I kind of felt it was my body trying to tell me something, and not just my body doing something wrong in a sense. But I looked a lot around like herbs and natural remedies to kind of help. And it created, I think, a lot this hormonal story, because I had acne when I was a teenager and when I started to bleed, and then I had nothing while I was on the pill, and then I stopped the pill and I had a like flare up that was really crazy. And so I was like, okay, it's hormonal. The fact that I stopped being on fake hormones, stopping the pill is creating a lot of acne. And then I fell pregnant with my first daughter, and with the pregnancy, I had a very beautiful skin. Like each
Mhm.
pregnancy is always the glow of the pregnant woman,
Mhm.
which kind of still uh,
Mhm.
went into this. It's hormonal acne, and so I then had a little some pimples when I had my bleed back between pregnancies, and then I kind of had a different like bigger pimples, and again a bit painful after my third pregnancy. And so there I was like, okay, so that's not working anymore because it's the same thing. Like I have been pregnant, then I have my baby, then my bleed come back, and this time it's different. So what's happening?
Yeah.
And so when this happened, I was in the Sherlock of Symptoms training. And so I was trying to really map everything, like when did I had flare-ups? Was it linked to just before my period or my period? Or and it was funny because it was really like I was just trying to look at those flare-ups through the hormonal
Mhm.
lens. So it was always like, where am I in my cycle when I realize I have a flare-up? What has changed after this third pregnancy that can maybe explain why it's different from after my first or my second pregnancy? And so then I shared this in the group with the other students, and I was like, okay, I'm a bit lost because like my theory about hormonal acne is not working anymore. What's happening? And so I remember you said, and what if you just drop the hormonal part and you look at the flare ups and everything? without having this lens of where am I in my cycle, knowing that acne is around attack, conflict, or feeling soiled, conflict. Do you have things that are linked to that? And so I started to write down the flare-ups and stop being like, I'm day 7 or day 5, day 29. And be just like, okay, what happened today? Have I felt any relief in any sense or whatever? And I started to see a pattern between what I was posting on my Instagram account and my flare-ups, basically. That's when I was posting quite personal, like something that felt really like exposing myself in a way, like sharing an opinion that is very important to me and that may not be mainstream, or that I felt in a sense could be criticized. And then it went well. I would have pimples, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe there is something around like, am I feeling attacked sometimes when I'm on social media?
Or imagining the attack, even
Or,
like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Perceiving I get an attack, even if it's not a real attack. And yeah, and I remember I posted something around the choice I had made to have a wild pregnancy and have a free birth for this fourth baby, with like just one ultrasound at the beginning and then no medical people around me. And I remember someone I love as a friend who answered something quite, I felt quite aggressive towards that, being like the kind of usual thing when you go for wild pregnancies, which is, isn't it a bit egocentric? Isn't it dangerous for your baby? No, 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 no. Mm-hmm. And so we started to have this discussion on in vocals around really like underlying motivations for why I was doing that way, and why this person was thinking it was maybe not something she would do for herself. And we discussed quite a while, and at the end, even if we didn't agree, it felt like I felt understood, and I think she felt understood too, because she told me, yeah, that's nice, we could have, like, that's nice, we took the time to really talk through that, because even if we don't agree, I understand your point of view better, and I think you understand mine. And then big flare up. And I was like, okay, so the correlation is very clear. This perception of, if I share something personal and something that I feel is linked to a deep belief, or something important, really important in my foundational belief system with the word on social media, I kind of brace for attack or aggression or whatever. And when it doesn't happen, I'm like, oh, it's okay. And so I get pimples.
Yeah.
And so just observing and like making this link and having this discussion with this woman, I really love, kind of help me, I would say, feel this kind of position I was putting myself into, like of waiting for the aggression or waiting for the attack, and be like, well, and I can just share, and maybe nobody's going to attack me. And even if someone's not agreeing with me, is it really an attack, or is it just someone not being like on the same page? And since then, no pimple anymore. So
What a great story.
yeah.
Well, I know that feeling. I'm like, oh no, everyone's thinking about me and they're all, and it's made up in your head. I mean, it's so common with acne, like whether it's online or in person, that the attack that one's perceiving is like entirely imagined. Like you're just imagining that other people are thinking about you or talking about you in a particular way. And then, sometimes someone is really doing that, but it's very easy to imagine that other people are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even if it's true, like the other day I had someone write a comment on one of my Substack article being like, you're holding people hostages, like parents hostages when they're very vulnerable, or like something quite aggressive.
Mm,
But now that I am like not anymore in this loop of
yeah.
bracing for attack,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this guy is like in his
Yeah. Yeah.
own thing, and it was less of an attack to like have this real comment
Yeah.
that I guess I felt attacked before, when nobody was maybe not even like thinking about anything or towards what I was writing. Basically, it's really like how I perceived things.
Yeah.
This now where I'm like, okay, like people will disagree with me and they will disagree with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so many good lessons in that story. And did you like have you thought back to when you came off of birth control that originally um like was anything going on then where you feel like you were more concerned by other people's perception of you at that time?
Yeah, I think when I went off birth control, there was an entire thing around like I was working a lot, having that, like being in a career dynamic that was taking more responsibilities and climbing the ladder in a sense. And so I was very concerned about like how would people react when I'll tell them I was like when I'll be pregnant. I was like, okay, how
Mhm.
am I going to make everything work together? Because I
Mhm.
felt yeah, in at some level I felt it was uh, difficult for me to uh, just recognize that I wanted to have kids and many
Mm.
kids, because I have 4 kids, and still be in this very like quote unquote climbing the ladder,
Mm.
leaning logic in my career. And so I think it now that I look back, I think it's really linked to that I was suddenly feeling almost under attack all the time, because I was yeah, I was clearly trying to conceive, and at the same time in a work environments that felt quite incompatible with pregnancy. So I
Mm.
was even in a very small startup where we were not that many people. Nobody had been pregnant before me,
Mm.
and so the setup was really not easy. And for yeah, I guess for when I was a teen, it's more like the teen thing, which is you're becoming a bit of an adult, you're starting to grow breasts, you're starting to bleed, and you're a bit like is it changing the way I am perceived by friends? Like, and I was a bit of a tomboy because I had like many boys in my friend groups.
Mhm.
I was one of the few girls, so I guess it was a bit like now, like we could say we're not different until now, but now that I'm bleeding and then I'm
Right.
becoming like a
Yeah.
woman, I'm not different. I cannot
Yeah.
say I'm just a boy with a vagina.
You're suddenly self-conscious in a new way when you hit puberty.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mm.
I realized that even if I liked hanging out with boys and that I was always like, I was still becoming a woman, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it felt a bit like, yeah, like something was different. And yeah, and I think maybe this thing around like the bit of a soil thing of bleed, etc. I remember when I had my bleeds, my grandmother was like, "You should hide it. You should hide it." Like there was something too around the. It's yeah, it's a bit taboo. It's a bit
Mhm.
so yeah. All of this played, I think, in what happened when I was more of a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. And into the conclusion that you had for a long time that it was hormonal. I mean, it's just also it's like kind of the only option that we're given of like how to understand acne is within this like yeah, hormonal context. Um, but most of the time the story is otherwise. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and realizing that pregnancy too is like a moment where at least I feel very like glow and I feel very like aligned with my feminine nature because it's
Yeah.
just there. And
Yeah.
so
And
that
there's also like so much the intensity of pregnancy, at least out of my experience, like there's so much going on, you like can't give a shit in the same way about things that you would otherwise care about because it's just like the sheer intensity of growing a human is so much that yeah, it alters your consciousness. Yeah.
yeah, true, true. Yeah, and I was reading something too. I don't know yet what I think really entirely about it, but in the Learning GNM website, where they explain that the second and third trimester are kind of a special phase in
Yeah.
general in pregnancy, and so that it changes a bit how the body reacts to
Yeah,
DHA.
the perception. Yeah. Well, awesome. I love it. I mean, it's like it's funny, right? Because GNM is it's all about patterns. I mean, the whole process of actually applying it in your life is essentially about pattern recognition. But sometimes that requires us to realize that some of the patterns that we've recognized before, like, are just actually not patterns, right? Like, I've had to have the conversation with many, many women of like, are you sure there's like a pattern here?
Yeah,
Because you're trying, and it's not just acne, many symptoms, right? Women are, especially in the alternative health world, are like taught to contextualize within the menstrual cycle. And so they're like, I'm in this phase or that phase or this day. But then when you actually like look at it over time, like there actually isn't a pattern. Sometimes there definitely is, right? There definitely are symptoms that come with ovulation, symptoms that come with menstruation, and that's important information, because obviously those events are meaning something to that woman, but a lot of the time, the symptoms actually are just unrelated. Yeah,
yeah, and you manufacture the link between the symptom
completely.
and the cycle because you always like you don't even write like today I had pimples and the day was XYZ. It's like
Mhm.
I'm day 7.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like it's
Yeah.
almost like you put on glasses that are
Yeah.
hormonal and
Yeah.
like learning to see that the flare up is the healing, forget about the cycle and
Mhm.
be like, okay, what is it about, what happened in my day to
Yeah.
day.
And the willingness to like, I have no idea. Like, but something will be revealed. Like, you definitely probably would not have guessed it's to do with my social media, you
Yeah,
know, posting that's causing my chronic acne. But then, here we are.
yeah, and that it's underlying like what others think about me. Like
Yeah.
I was first a bit like, is that important? Well, apparently for my body it is.
Mhm. 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 Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, should we shift into the vomiting story?
Yes, we can talk a bit about the vomiting story. So it was very early this year. And so I was, yeah, I would say I was probably 8 weeks pregnant. So it could be a morning sickness symptom. And in my third pregnancy, I had no morning sickness. So uh, I knew it was possible, at least. I would say that's
Yeah.
because I was sick in my first 2 pregnancies, but not my
Mhm.
third. And so we had this kind of Christmas time where, or it was New Year. My parents came at home, and so we were with them celebrating the new year, etc. I think my daughter. told my mom I was pregnant with baby four, but she knew it was okay to tell her. So they were in the bath and I overheard something. And my mom didn't say like, "Oh, that's great, you're gonna be a big sister
Mm,
again." Nah, she was like, I was baby five and that was not that great, or something like very cold, a bit of that
mm,
note.
mm,
And then at night we were having dinner. My dad was not arrived, had not arrived yet, and so I was like, okay, let's maybe just tell it in a bit of a more like official way. Maybe my mom was a bit not at ease that it's my daughter who told her. So at dinner with my husband, we're like, oh, and we're expecting baby four for the summer. We're very happy, and my niece is happy to become a big sister again, as
mhm,
she says.
mhm,
And my mom kind of was like, ah, okay, well, four is a lot, no? Or something like that. Like
mm,
very cold, very yeah, no enthusiasm, no reverence towards the life creating process of being
mhm,
pregnant, etc.
mhm,
And so I remember like on the moment being a bit disappointed and being like, okay, no, it's not just that she didn't really knew how to react because it was her granddaughter who told her, but it's like she's kind of having this weird reaction because before that, like for my first three pregnancies, she was very enthusiastic, and so yeah, it was a bit weird. And then my father arrived, and there was kind of a mess. I still have not had the last word on that, but she told my father, or they asked the kids, I don't know, but my father knew too. And well, my father, I used to wait a little bit more to tell him because when he knows, he says to everyone. And so I try to like talk about this with, like, for example, my sister and people like that before, so that when he knows, he can talk to anyone and it's
mhm,
okay. And so like, he knows before I would have waited a few weeks more because I was
mm,
going to see my sister, etc. And so I'm a bit annoyed to like, okay, so what happened? And nobody's
yeah.
telling me like who said what, no, no, no. And of course, he tells my sister because he goes to see her just after, but he tells her before I tell her. So I'm a bit like, okay, that's
Mhm,
not how I had planned things to happen.
yeah.
But anyway, my parents leave a few days after. And the day after, I start to have morning sickness, or at least I have like, I would say 6 hours intense vomiting.
Mm,
So first thing is like my husband is like, "Oh, are you having again morning sickness for this pregnancy?" And I'm like, "That doesn't feel like morning sickness."
mm,
And he was like, "Oh, maybe you've eaten something bad, like it's maybe just intoxication." And I'm like, "No, no, like what happened yesterday, my parents left." And what happened like the week before, like when they were here, it was this kind of
mm,
messy territorial thing with
yeah.
them asking my kids like a bit behind my back to tell them
Mhm,
things, and my mom not being so happy with a new member of our territory being on its way. And so it really felt like just a territorial anger resolution. And
yeah. Well, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Those are really helpful stories.
oh, thank you for hosting me.